Don't touch that dial. Welcome to Theatre Bristol On Air's presentation of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes classic mystery, The Hound of the Baskervilles. I'm the director and your host, Glenn Patterson. The Theatre Bristol On Air ensemble features the talents of James Francis, Andrew Hunt, Brant Burgess, Joshua Green, Ben Mays, Dan Gray, Natalie Justice, Robert McCrary, Jeanette Winston, and Taylor Bowling. The stage manager is Nicole Intagliata, the soundographer is Camille Gray, and the producer is Samantha Gray. Now, don't touch that dial. It's time for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes adventure, The Hound of the Baskervilles.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes was seated at the breakfast table in our digs at 221B Baker Street. I stood upon the hearth rug and picked up the walking stick which our visitor had left the night before. On the stick was a metal band engraved with the inscription, "To James Mortimer, M.R.C.S., from his friends of the CCH, 1884.
Well, Watson, what do you make of it? Since we have been so unfortunate as to miss the visitor who left this stick behind, and since we have no notion of his errand, this accidental souvenir becomes of importance. Let me hear you reconstruct this man by an examination of it.
M.R.C.S., member, Royal College of Surgeons, of course. I think that Dr. Mortimer is a successful elderly physician, well esteemed, since those who know him gave him this token of their appreciation.
Excellent.
I think also that the probability is in favor of his being a country practitioner who does a great deal of his visiting on foot, because this stick, although originally a very handsome one, has been so knocked about that I can hardly imagine a city practitioner carrying it.
Perfectly sound.
And there is the inscription, Friends of the CCH. I should guess that to be the something or other Hunt, a local club to whom the doctor had possibly given some assistance, and which presented him with this stick in return.
Really, Watson, you excel yourself. Let me examine the stick for a moment. Interesting, though elementary.
Has anything escaped me? I trust that there is nothing of consequence which I have overlooked.
I am afraid, my dear Watson, that most of your conclusions were erroneous. This man is certainly a country practitioner, and he walks a good deal, but I would suggest that a presentation to a doctor is more likely to have come from a hospital than from a hunt, and that the initials CCH very naturally suggest Charing Cross Hospital. It would seem obvious that the stick was given him by his friends on the occasion of his leaving the hospital, probably to go into practice for himself in the country, which only a young man would do, since an older doctor would likely be on staff. Finally, I would surmise that this fellow is the possessor of a favorite dog.
Oh, really?
Yes. The dog has been in the habit of carrying the stick behind his master. I can plainly make out the marks of its teeth, and it may have been... Yes, by Jove, it is a curly-haired spaniel.
My dear fellow, how can you possibly be so sure of that?
For the simple reason, Watson, that I see the dog itself on our very doorstep. And there is the ring of its owner. Now is the dramatic moment of fate. What does Dr. Mortimer, man of science, ask of Sherlock Holmes, specialist in crime? Come in.
Ah, my walking stick. I was not sure if I had left it here or in the shipping office. I would not lose that stick for the world.
A presentation, I see.
Yes, from friends at Charing Cross Hospital.
Ah, yes.
I am Dr. James Mortimer. This gentleman with me is Sir Henry Baskerville. May we come in?
Please do, Dr. Mortimer. Sir Henry, this is my friend, Dr. Watson.
A pleasure. I have heard your name mentioned in connection with that of Mr. Holmes.
How do you do?
I am honored.
Ah, Sir Henry, you are from North America?
Why, yes, but...
The accent, Sir Henry, the accent. I would say you have lived some time in Canada.
Yes, several years, but how...
Please, it is my speciality. Now, gentlemen, why have you done us the privilege of calling upon us?
I have 2 documents with me, Mr. Holmes, which will indicate the scope of the problem I bring to your doorstep. This first is a family paper committed to my care by Sir Charles Baskerville, Sir Henry's late uncle. The paper, which was handed down through generations of Baskervilles, was written back in 1742.
I trust that there is something more modern and practical upon which you wish to consult me.
Most modern, but the manuscript is intimately connected with the affair, and I beg your indulgence.
Continue then.
The current family home of the Baskervilles has been in their possession since Hugo Baskerville founded the manor more than 500 years ago. Hugo was a wild, profane, and godless man who had a cruel humor. This paper tells the story of how it chanced that he came to love the daughter of a yeoman who held lands near his estate, but the young woman feared him and would have nothing to do with him. One dark night, Hugo Baskerville and 6 or 7 of his drunken friends stole down upon the yeoman's farm and carried the girl back to Baskerville Hall, where they imprisoned her in an upper chamber.
Listen to them! Heaven knows what foul deeds they have planned. If I could only get this window open. Ah, there! 'Tis a steep climb, but I believe the ivy will hold me. If I can only get away before he discovers I am gone.
Here I am, my sweet. Now let us discover what pleasures hide. What? Where is she? When she's flown! Oh, I'll have her, no one will. Matthews, prepare the hounds. The wench has run, but she'll not escape the hands of Hugo Baskerville. Matthews, take the girl's handkerchief, give it to the hounds, then loose them after her on the moor, and prepare my horse. I will render my body and soul to the powers of evil this very night if I might only overtake her.
The other revelers stood speechless, unable to understand. Everything had happened so quickly. When they finally grasped the situation, they also mounted their horses and took off in pursuit. They had gone but a mile or two when they passed a night shepherd on the moor.
You there, shepherd! Have you seen a girl run by here? A man upon a black horse?
I've seen them both. The maid was near death. She was so afraid, and the hounds were right behind her. Then I saw a sight, my God. The man was on his horse, and on his heels was, I shall never forget it, a huge hound of hell. Fire shot from its eyes, and flame roared from its mouth.
You saw this?
Aye. They went across the moor toward those rocks yonder. But I wouldn't be following them. Not on my life.
The horsemen rode on, even though a great fear had come upon them. Suddenly they rounded a turn and came onto a great open space. The moon was shining bright upon the clearing, and there in the midst lay the unhappy maiden where she had fallen, dead of fear and fatigue. But it was not the sight of her body, nor yet the body of Hugo Baskerville lying near her that terrified the men. But there, standing over Hugo and plucking at his throat, stood a foul thing, a great black beast, shaped like a hound, but larger than any hound that any mortal eye had looked upon. Even as they looked, the thing tore the throat out of Hugo Baskerville and turned its blazing eyes and dripping jaws upon them. For the generations of the Baskervilles, which have lived in the hall ever since, the terror of the hound's presence has always hovered over the dark moor. It is said that the baying of the hound still echoes across the moor, and that it continues to thirst for the blood of the Baskervilles. That is the tale that is conveyed in this letter.
Well,
Do you not find this interesting?
to a collector of fairy tales.
But now to this other paper I have, the Devon County Chronicle of May 14th of this year. It is a short newspaper account of the facts elicited at the death of Sir Charles Baskerville. The facts of the case are simple. A few months ago, on the 4th of May, Sir Charles went out for his usual walk. He never returned. At 12 o'clock, his manservant Barrymore, finding the hall door still open, went in search of his master. The day had been wet, and Sir Charles' footmarks were easily traced down the alley. Halfway down this walk is a gate, which leads out onto the moor. There were indications that Sir Charles had stood for some time here, and then proceeded down the alley. It was at the far end of the alley that his body was found. There were no signs of violence upon the body, but the man's face was incredibly distorted in a horrible mask of fear. This is a not unusual condition in cases of death from cardiac exhaustion, and my post-mortem examination showed long-standing organic disease. These are the public facts, Mr. Holmes.
The public facts, indeed. Now, pray, let me have the private ones.
Sir Charles was a friend of mine as well as being my patient. Over the last few months of his life, it was clear that his nervous system was strained to the breaking point. This legend, which we shared with you earlier, he had taken extremely to heart, so much so that although he would walk upon the grounds of the estate, he would by no means venture out upon the moor, even in broad daylight. I suggested that he travel to London, where I thought the change would do him good. However, it was not to be. On the night of Sir Charles' death, his servant Barrymore sent for me. I arrived as quickly as I could, and I examined the alley where his body lay. The space was very much as described in the newspaper article, but there was one false statement made at the inquest. Barrymore stated that there were no traces upon the ground around the body. He did not observe any, but I did. Some little distance off, but fresh and clear.
Footprints?
Footprints.
A man's or a woman's?
Neither, Mr. Holmes. They were the footprints of a gigantic hound. I have not shared this with anyone else because a man of science such as myself shrinks from placing himself in the public position seeming to endorse a popular superstition.
You saw this?
As clearly as I see you, on the path some 20 yards away from the body.
And you said nothing?
What was the use?
There are no doubt many sheepdogs on the moor.
I know this was no sheepdog. The track was enormous.
But it had not approached the body.
No.
And what marks did you see at the gate?
None in particular. Sir Charles had evidently stood there for 5 or 10 minutes.
How do you know that?
Because the ash from the cigar he had been smoking had dropped twice.
Excellent. This is a colleague after our own heart, Watson. But Dr. Mortimer, why did you not call me in on the case at once? Months have passed, and whatever clues I may have been able to uncover are long gone.
Mr. Holmes, this is a realm in which the most acute and experienced of detectives is helpless.
You mean that you believe this thing is supernatural? You, a trained man of science.
I do not know what to believe. I will say this. Several very reliable men have stated that sometime before the death of Sir Charles, they had seen at a distance a creature roaming the moor. They all said it was a huge creature, luminous, ghastly, and spectral.
If you believe this creature to be a denizen of hell set loose upon the earth, why do you come to me then?
As you have deduced, Sir Henry is from Canada. He is the sole surviving heir of the Baskerville estate.
It took some time to settle my affairs in North America before I could come to England. I arrived only yesterday. I had been in my hotel room but a short time when this note was delivered to me.
As you value your life, or your reason, stay away from the moor. Fascinating. See, Watson, these words were cut from a newspaper and pieced together to make the sentence. I would say from the Daily Times.
But why?
Undoubtedly, the writer wished to remain quite anonymous, even to the point that they feared someone recognizing their handwriting. What do you make of it, Dr. Mortimer? There is obviously nothing supernatural about this.
No, sir, but it might very well come from someone who is convinced the business is supernatural.
Sir Henry, has anything else of interest happened to you since your arrival in London?
No, Mr. Holmes, I would think not.
Nothing out of the ordinary?
Well, there is the matter of the missing boot.
Please, Sir Henry, I don't think such trifles are important.
Never discount trifles, Dr. Mortimer. What of the missing boot, Sir Henry?
Well, it's just that this morning I discovered that one of my old black boots had vanished.
Just one boot? Interesting. I don't profess to understand it yet, Sir Henry, but this case of yours is very complex.
Which brings us to the question we are here for you to answer. Should Sir Henry proceed on to Baskerville Hall or remain here in London? I fear for him there.
I am of the opinion that nothing should stop me from returning to the home of my people, Mr. Holmes.
A few more questions, gentlemen, please. Do you mind telling me the size of the Baskerville estate?
The total value of the estate is close to £1 million.
Dear me, it is a stake for which a man might well play a desperate game. Supposing that, forgive me, Sir Henry, supposing that something untoward were to befall you, who would inherit the estate?
Title to the estate would then fall to Reverend James Desmond, a distant cousin and elder clergyman in Westmoreland. I met the good Reverend once when he visited Sir Charles years ago, a man of venerable appearance and a saintly life.
There are no other heirs.
Sir Henry is the only surviving son of Sir Charles' late brother, William. They had a third brother, Roger, the black sheep of the family. He died some years ago in Central America and had no children.
I see. Well, Sir Henry, I'm of a disposition to agree with you. I believe you should by all means go to Baskerville Hall. The threat to you, whether it be devil or man, is just as great whether you remain here in London or go to Devonshire. At least there we will not have the teeming millions on the street through which to sift for clues. There is only one provision I require. You must not go alone.
Dr. Mortimer will be with me.
But Dr. Mortimer will have his practice to attend to, and there will be times he will be unable to respond to your needs. No, Sir Henry, you must take with you someone, a trustworthy man, who will always be by your side.
Will you be accompanying me then?
If matters came to a crisis, I should endeavor to be there in person. However, there are a number of pressing cases to which I must attend here in London at present. I'm afraid I cannot go now. However, in my stead, I can present no more worthy a companion than he who has stood by my side so faithfully in so many tight spots. What do you say, Watson? Would you be willing?
Why, Holmes,
Oh, please, Dr. Watson. I shall make you most welcome, I am sure.
Well, the promise of adventure always holds a fascination for me. I will come.
Then I see no point in delaying our departure. We only need complete an item or two of business in London today, and we shall be ready.
Well, then, shall we meet at the station first thing tomorrow morning?
My adventures with Mr. Holmes have taught me the necessity of being ready to leave on a moment's notice. I shall meet you there.
Excellent. Then we shall be on our way. Thank you, Mr. Holmes. I know not what course we embark upon, but I feel much more secure with your guidance.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, then.
I am sorry, Watson.
About what?
About sending you. It's an ugly business, Watson, an ugly, dangerous business.
But surely, Holmes, a mad superstition about a huge hound bounding across the moor and a stolen boot.
Yes, my dear fellow, you may laugh, but I give you my word I shall be very glad when you have returned safe and sound to Baker Street once more. We're almost at the station, Watson. I will not bias your mind by suggesting theories. I wish you to report facts to me as completely as possible.
What sort of facts?
Anything which may seem to have a bearing on the case, especially the relations between young Baskerville and his neighbors, or any fresh particulars on the death of Sir Charles.
Very well.
One thing I can tell you, we can eliminate the Reverend James Desmond from our list. I have made some inquiries, and I am quite sure this persecution does not arise from him. You are armed?
I took the precaution of bringing my revolver.
Good. Keep it near you day and night. Well, here we are.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Sir Henry, did you by any chance ever find your missing boot?
No, I'm afraid it's gone forever.
Indeed. That is very interesting.
All aboard!
Well, goodbye, gentlemen. And Sir Henry, bear in mind one of the phrases from Dr. Mortimer's peculiar old legend, and avoid the moor on those hours of darkness when the powers of evil are exalted.
My dear Holmes, even though we only left London a few hours ago, I'm quite anxious to keep you informed of our activities, and hence I write my first report. We had a quite pleasant train ride to Devonshire. Indeed, the only item of interest was that on arriving at the station, we were informed that the Notting Hill murderer, Selden, had escaped from Princetown, and several armed men were out watching every road and station for sight of him. Dr. Mortimer accompanied Sir Henry and me to Baskerville Hall, and then he rode on to his home. I must say that the moor, which comprises most of the countryside, is quite foreboding. It is a hilly, grey and melancholy place. We were, however, warmly welcomed when we reached the hall by the servants, Mr. and Mrs. Barrymore.
Baskerville Hall is a fine place, but a bit on the gloomy side, wouldn't you say, Dr. Watson?
Sir Henry,
Yes.
welcome to Baskerville Hall. I am Barrymore, and this is my wife.
Would you wish dinner to be served at once, sir?
Is it ready?
In a few minutes, sir, and you will find hot water in your rooms.
That's excellent.
Follow me, please.
Mrs. Barrymore, the meal was outstanding.
Thank you, sir. Will there be anything else?
No, Dr. Watson and I will be retiring shortly. Thank you. In many ways, this is not a very cheerful place, is it? I don't wonder that my uncle got a little jumpier living all alone in such a house as this. Perhaps it will be more cheerful in the morning.
Perhaps.
What are your plans for tomorrow?
I believe I will try to learn what I can about your neighbors. I would like to get an early start, so I'll excuse myself now if you don't mind. Good night.
Good night.
Sir Henry was quite right. The moor was much more congenial by day. This is actually quite a pleasant walk.
Dr. Watson! Dr. Watson!
Hello?
Dr. Watson, you will excuse my presumption. Here on the moor, we are homely folk and do not wait for formal introduction. Dr. Mortimer told me you were here. I am Stapleton of Merripit House.
How do you do?
I was afraid you might think I was the convict. There have been reports of his hiding among the rocks on the moor.
I don't suppose it's very likely that he would run across the hill calling my name, however.
No, I don't suppose it likely. I trust Sir Henry is none the worse for his journey.
He is very well, thank you.
We were afraid, after the death of Sir Charles, that the heir might not want to live in the hall, with the legend of the fiendish hound over his head. I have no doubt that it led to Sir Charles's tragic end. I knew that his heart was weak.
How did you know that?
Dr. Mortimer told me. I believe the fright killed him. So, is Mr. Holmes going to honor us with a visit himself?
He cannot leave London at present.
What a pity. He might throw light upon that which is so dark to us.
You are a naturalist?
The net and box which I carry give me away, eh?
Yes.
I am. My sister and I moved here only 2 years ago, but with my exploration of the moor, I dare say there is no one in these parts who knows it better than I.
Is it hard to know?
Very hard. You see those bright green spots scattered thickly over the hills yonder? That is the Great Grimpen Mire. A false step there means death to man or beast. Only yesterday I saw one of the moor ponies wander into it and never come out. I saw his head craning out of the swampy bog for some time, but he finally was drawn down at last.
What was that?
The peasants say it is the Hound of the Baskervilles. I have heard it once or twice before.
Surely you don't believe the superstition.
Bogs make peculiar sounds sometimes. It is the mud settling or some such thing.
No, that was a living voice.
Perhaps it was a bittern booming. It's a very rare bird, practically extinct in England now. But it would not surprise if it were a cry of a bittern. But as to the reason I tracked you down, might it be possible for you and Sir Henry to join my sister and me for lunch tomorrow afternoon?
I will see what Sir Henry has planned.
Excellent. Unless I hear otherwise, my sister and I will watch for you at lunch tomorrow. I shall be on my way then. Good day.
Good day, Mr. Stapleton. Dear Holmes, it is now quite late, well after 1 o'clock in the morning, as I write this report. Other than my meeting with Stapleton, the only item of interest to report is the strange sounds I heard just a few moments ago. I had sat at my desk to compose my thoughts when I heard someone wandering about in the halls. I also heard the muffled sounds of someone crying. I believe it was a woman, and so probably was Mrs. Barrymore. I shall attempt to find out more about it tomorrow, perhaps after Sir Henry and I join Stapleton and his sister for lunch.
Dr. Watson, you made it for lunch after all.
Sir Henry, this is Mr. Stapleton. Mr. Stapleton, Sir Henry Baskerville.
It's my pleasure, Mr. Stapleton.
Won't you come in?
Yes, thank you. What a marvelous collection of books.
Thank you. Before my sister and I moved to the moor, I had a school in the North Country.
Dr. Watson tells me you are a naturalist.
Yes, indeed. In fact, I am quite proud to have one of the most complete collections of Lepidoptera in the entire Southwest. It is just up these stairs.
Are you coming, Dr. Watson?
I'll join you shortly. I'd like to look over this collection.
Oh, you are here. Where is my brother?
Upstairs, I was just...
Go back! Go straight back to London instantly.
Why should I go back?
I cannot explain, but for God's sake, do what I ask you. Go back, and never set foot upon the moor again. Hush, my brother is coming.
But...
Ah, Beryl, I see you have met Dr. Watson.
Dr. Watson? But I thought this was Sir Henry.
No, this gentleman is Sir Henry.
Then we were talking at cross purposes. I am sorry.
No apology necessary. But I do want to ask...
Please, gentlemen, won't you step this way? Lunch is prepared.
Miss Stapleton, it is truly a pleasure to meet such a lovely lady.
Why, thank you, Sir Henry.
Lunch, gentlemen.
Miss Stapleton, the lunch was superb. Stapleton, I don't know how it is that you've been so fortunate as to not lose your sister to a husband. A lady of such beauty who is equally talented and entertaining would certainly make a wonderful wife for some lucky gentleman.
Yes, well, Beryl has never seemed very interested in marriage. Have you, dear? My sister and I are very close, and I don't know what I would do without her.
Your hospitality has been greatly appreciated, Miss Stapleton, but I suppose Sir Henry and I should be going.
Yes, I suppose we must. But I hope you will do me the honor of allowing me to call on you again.
Well,
Certainly, Sir Henry, certainly. We must plan to do this again soon.
Thank you both.
You're very welcome.
I look forward to seeing you again, Miss Stapleton.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
What a beautiful woman.
Her brother seems quite protective, don't you think?
Probably no more than I would be, were she my sister.
I suppose. However, there is something of greater import which we need to discuss. Did you hear any strange noises in the house last night?
Yes, I did. It is almost certainly Barrymore walking about.
So I think as well. But to what purpose so late at night? I heard a woman crying as well. Under the circumstances, I'd have to say it was quite suspicious.
What would Mr. Holmes do in this situation?
I am almost certain he would shadow him to see what he is after.
Then that is what we should do.
Very well. We shall wait in my room tonight, and when he passes, we shall follow him.
Don't touch that dial. Thank you for tuning in to Theatre Bristol on Air's The Hound of the Baskervilles. We will return after this message recognizing our sponsors. Theatre Bristol on Air could not provide entertainment such as The Hound of the Baskervilles without support from its partners and sponsors. WETS, the Tennessee Arts Commission, the T.C. Peltzer Ear, Nose, Throat, and Allergy Consultants, ETSU Cross-Disciplinary Studies, Citizens Bank, HVAC Incorporated, Summit BSR Roofing, Siemens Corporation, Burwell Construction, Stephanie A. Snelson DDS, Food City, Party Central, Guthrie Dentistry, M&M Accounting, Celebrate Rentals, Blackbird Bakery, Double CYB, The Loafer, Bristol Herald Courier, Paramount Bristol, and the Home Depot. Now we return to The Hound of the Baskervilles, presented by Theatre Bristol on Air. Don't touch that dial.
What time is it?
Nearly 2:30. Shh! I think I hear him coming. Quickly! There he is, come on!
He stopped at that window ahead and is pulling back the drape.
Doesn't that window face out onto the moor?
Yes, it does.
He's waving that lamp back and forth as if signaling someone on the moor. But who would venture out there at this hour of the night? And what is that package he's carrying?
I don't know, but I shall certainly find out. Barrymore?
What? Sir Henry, I didn't know you were... Dr. Watson, I...
What are you doing, Barrymore? No lies now.
Nothing, sir.
Who were you signaling?
Signaling?
Here, give me the lamp. See? Look out on the moor, Sir Henry. See the light there? It's moving in response to my movement.
What is this, Barrymore? What dark plot do you have against me?
It's not against you, sir.
Mrs. Barrymore?
Please, sir, blame me if you must. My poor husband is not at fault. He is only doing what I ask.
Speak out, then. What is all this about?
It is my brother, Sir Henry. He's starving out on the moor. The light is a signal that food is waiting for him.
Then your brother is...
The escaped convict, Selden. I could not turn him away, sir. We've been leaving food for him late at night at the rear entrance.
What is in the package there, Barrymore?
Clothing, Sir Henry. This is one of the suits from your old wardrobe, which you instructed me to give to charity. I was going to leave it for my wife's brother.
Well, I don't suppose he'll be needing it now. We'll need to advise the authorities where he is.
Please, sir, don't turn him in. I know he's done wrong, but I can't help thinking of him still as a child I grew up with. He won't be causing any harm while he's out there on the moor, and we've made arrangements for him to leave the country.
I beg you, sir, to say nothing to the police. It would only get my wife and me into trouble. And he will be leaving for South America in just a few days.
What do you say, Watson?
I don't know. One mystery at a time is the most I can handle. If he was safely out of the country, it would relieve the taxpayer of a burden.
That is true. Well, Barrymore, I suppose we will keep quiet.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You just be sure there's no trouble from the man while he remains in England.
Oh, we shall, sir. We shall.
My dear, please, go back to the room. I'd like to speak just a moment with Sir Henry.
I will. And thank you, Sir Henry. God bless you.
Good night, Mrs. Barrymore.
Sir, you have been so kind to us. I should like to do the best that I can in return. I know something, and perhaps I should have said so before, but I found out so long after the inquest was over. It was about Sir Charles' death.
Do you know how he died?
No, sir, I don't know that, but I know why he was at the gate that hour. It was to meet a woman.
A woman? He?
Yes, sir. Her name is Laura Lyons. Only a few weeks ago, my wife was cleaning out Sir Charles' study when she found the fragile remains of a letter in the back of the fireplace grate. Most of it was charred to pieces, but the very end of the letter was just legible. It said, "Please, please, as you are a gentleman, burn this letter and be at the gate by 10 o'clock the evening of May 4th. It was signed Laura Lyons."
And you did not share this with the police?
As I said, we've only just recently found this out, and with all the trouble with my wife's brother. Besides, we were both fond of Sir Charles, and we felt that revealing such a letter might bring harm upon his reputation. I felt that no good could come of it. But I feel that it would be treating you unfairly not to mention it now.
Very good, Barrymore. Thank you.
One other point, sir. Selden has told me that he's not alone out on the moor.
What?
There's another man in hiding. He's not a convict, or so Selden thinks. At first he thought he was the police, but then he saw he had some lay of his own. He said the man had a lad from the town that brought his provision on occasion.
Please, let me know if you hear any more about this other man.
I will, sir. Anything I hear. Thank you again, sir. Good night.
Well, Watson, what do you think?
I think my next report to Holmes should make very good reading. I am very much mistaken if it doesn't bring him down.
Barrymore has forgotten to leave the package for his brother-in-law. I suppose if we are going to aid and abet a criminal, we might as well go all the way. Walk with me, Watson, and we'll leave it at the rear.
Where is it these men live up on the moor? It is quite desolate.
Stapleton told me that there are several stone huts scattered about the moor which were inhabited by Celts from prehistoric times. Probably he has found one suitable to live in.
I suppose I will try to find this Laura Lyons tomorrow. She can surely shed some light.
I would think so. Ah, here we are. I'll just set these outside the door. Oh my God, what is that?
I don't know. It is some sound upon the moor. It's the same sound I mentioned to you before.
Watson, it is the cry of a hound.
Stapleton said it might be the cry of some bird.
No, it was a hound. Can there be some truth in the old story? You don't believe it, do you, Watson?
No.
And yet, It is one thing to laugh about it in a warm room in London, and quite another to hear across the moor.
Let us retire. I must try to find this woman early tomorrow, and you should get your rest.
I shall try, but I believe that sound shall remain with me for the rest of my life.
May I help you?
Are you Miss Laura Lyons?
Mrs. Laura Lyons.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Lyons. My name is Watson. May I come in?
May I ask the nature of your visit?
I'm here to see you about the late Sir Charles Baskerville.
Please come in. What do you wish to know?
You knew him, did you not?
Sir Charles was among those who shared their kindness with me during a time of difficulty I experienced.
What was the nature of this, difficulty?
It is of a somewhat personal nature. My husband had deserted me. Sir Charles and some others provided me with funds I needed to help establish my typewriting service. Their assistance helped me continue to live in the manner to which I was accustomed.
Did you correspond with Sir Charles?
Occasionally.
Did you ever meet with him?
Only once or twice. He was very retiring and often sent his kindness by another.
Did you meet with him the night of his death?
No. No, I had planned to meet with him, but I did not go.
Why did you not go?
The meeting was intended to give me the opportunity of seeking additional assistance from him, but I received the money from someone else that day and did not need to meet with him.
Why did you not inform Sir Charles?
The hour was so late. I intended to call upon him the next morning to explain my absence, but by then he was dead. I can assure you, sir, that the relations between Sir Charles and me were of the highest standards. I know, in light of the fact that I am divorced and he was single, that the circumstances could appear compromising, but there was nothing to besmirch the reputations of either of us in it.
I do not question that. I only try to ascertain the facts. Thank you for your time, but I may have additional questions at a later date. My dear Holmes, I trust that this letter will find you well. In my last letter, I shared the information I had received about the convict Selden and Mrs. Laura Lyons. I also mentioned that the convict claimed another man was lurking about on the moor, and that this man had a lad from the town who delivered his supplies. Well, I have seen the lad. I spied him shortly after I had written my last report to you. I followed him some ways onto the moor, far enough to see where the supplies were delivered, but turned back when I realized that I had not brought my revolver. Regarding your warning about the possible dangers in the case, I determined that I had best be armed when I confront the man to whom the boy delivers the provisions. By the time you receive this letter, I will have returned to the site where the boy leaves the supplies. On the off chance that I may not return from this venture, I am enclosing a rough map to give the location so that you may follow after. I remain sincerely, Watson. Well, I don't know how much longer I can wait. This is where the boy has left the supplies. Obviously, the man lives here. These ashes look relatively recent, but it's nearly dark and that must be the man.
It is a lovely evening, my dear Watson. I really think you would be more comfortable outside than in.
Holmes! Holmes!
Come out and please be careful with the revolver.
I have never been more glad to see anyone in my life.
Or more astonished, eh?
I must confess it. How did you know it was me? I posted my letter just before I came up here.
When I see the stub of a cigarette marked Bradley, Oxford Street, I know my friend Watson cannot be far away. Did you really believe I was the convict?
I did not know who you were, but I was determined to find out.
Excellent. How did you find me?
I chanced to spy the boy who delivered your supplies when I was in town.
To see Mrs. Laura Lyons?
Exactly.
Well done. Our researches have evidently been running on parallel lines.
I'm glad from my heart that you are here, but I thought you were in Baker Street working out that case of blackmailing.
That is what I wished you to think.
And then you used me and did not trust me.
My dear fellow, for you to know that I was here could not have helped us and might possibly have led to my discovery. I have arranged to receive your reports with only a day's delay, and those reports have been extremely valuable in my research.
Well, I suppose you may be right.
Now, to compare notes. You are aware, I presume, of the close intimacy between Mrs. Laura Lyons and Mr. Stapleton?
No, not at all.
Certainly. They write, they meet, there is a complete understanding between them. Now, if I can only use this information to detach his wife from her allegiance.
His wife?
Yes. The lady who has passed for Miss Stapleton is, in fact, his wife.
How are you so sure of this?
Because of the one bit of true information which he has given us. As you informed me in your report, he was in fact a schoolmaster in the north of England. A little investigation showed that a man and wife who owned a school there had come to some grief and left 2 years ago. The descriptions matched. When I found that the gentleman in question was also a naturalist, the pieces fell into place.
So she is his wife, not his sister. That explains why he was so protective when Sir Henry showed interest in her. But why the pretense?
He foresaw that she would be very much more useful to him in the guise of a free woman.
It is Stapleton, then, who is our enemy.
So I read the riddle.
And the warning Sir Henry received in London must have come from her.
Exactly.
Where does Mrs. Lyons fit into all this?
Since she regards Stapleton as a single man, the interest she shows in him indicates that she most probably has some designs on him as a future husband. That will require a bit more investigation to confirm. And if that is true, we may find the lady of invaluable service, Watson.
One last question, Holmes. What is the meaning of all this? What is he after?
It is murder, Watson. Refined, cold-blooded, deliberate murder. Do not ask me for particulars. There is but one danger, that he may strike before we are ready to do so. I am glad we met today, but I almost wished you had not left Sir Henry's side. Stapleton may strike at any...
My God! What is it?
The Hound! Come, Watson, hurry! We're too late, Watson. He has beaten us.
No, surely not.
Look at the bottom of the ravine. Even in the twilight you can make out the clothing.
Sir Henry!
It is the same suit he was wearing the first day he called on us at Baker Street.
Where is the Hound? And where is Stapleton? He shall pay for this.
He shall. I shall see to that.
I suppose we should attend to Sir Henry's body.
Careful, Watson. It's very steep. Watson, look! A beard! This man has a beard! It isn't Sir Henry, it's my neighbor, the convict.
The clothes! The poor man was wearing Sir Henry's clothes given to him by Bettymore.
The clothes were the man's undoing. The Hound has been laid on from some article of Sir Henry's, the boots stolen from his hotel, no doubt, and so ran this man down. Hush! What is it?
Hello, I heard a disturbance, and Dr. Watson, is that you? Wait, on the ground. Don't tell me that is Sir Henry. Who is this?
It is the convict, Selden.
I heard the cry. I was concerned for Sir Henry.
Why Sir Henry in particular?
Because I suggested he come over. When he did not come, I became alarmed for his safety. By the way, did you hear anything beside the man's cry?
No, did you?
No.
What do you mean, then?
You know, the stories the peasants tell about the phantom hound. I wondered if there were any sign of it tonight.
I believe the anxiety and exposure the man had suffered here on the moor finally was his undoing. He has apparently rushed about the moor in a crazed state and fallen.
Yes, you must be right, Mr. Holmes.
You are quick at identification.
We have been expecting you in these parts for some time.
Yes, well, I will take an unpleasant remembrance back to London with me tomorrow.
You will be returning tomorrow, then?
I am afraid I must.
Well, I would suggest we try to move the man's body back to my house, but I fear it would give my sister a terrible fright. Under the circumstances, I'm sure the body will be best left here until tomorrow. So, I'll take my leave now, gentlemen.
Good night. What a nerve this fellow has. He pulled himself together remarkably well after he discovered that the wrong man had fallen victim of his plot.
Why should we not arrest him at once?
At this point, we have not the shadow of a case, only conjecture and surmise. No, we must prove our suspicions to be correct. I will now make a late call upon Mrs. Laura Lyons. You should return to Baskerville Hall, but Watson, say nothing to Sir Henry of the Hound. He will then have better nerve to do what he must do tomorrow night when he is engaged, if I remember your report, to dine with these Stapleton people.
I am invited also.
You must excuse yourself so that he may go alone. We shall simply say that we are both returning to London. Even Sir Henry must be convinced that we are gone for the evening, but that we shall be returning the next day. It will embolden Stapleton to put his plan to work tomorrow night. Make sure that Sir Henry walks home across the moor after dinner. We shall be there, Watson, and we shall bring this man's reign of terror to a final stop.
The next night, Holmes and I crossed the dark moor and quietly made our way through the boulders on the hill overlooking Merripit House. A heavy fog was slowly moving across the moor as we waited.
Watson, this fog worries me. If it should reach us before Sir Henry leaves, the danger to Sir Henry is greatly multiplied. Can you see anyone moving about in the house?
The one lighted room is certainly the dining room, but the chair which Miss Stapleton usually occupies is empty. I have seen both Stapleton and Sir Henry, but in all the time we've been watching the house, I have not seen her. I don't believe she's with them.
She has obviously participated in this plot only because her husband forced her to do so. Her numerous efforts to warn Sir Henry proves that. Who knows what her husband has done with her? He's quite evil, this Stapleton. Ah, Watson, I wish you could have seen the look on Mrs. Lyon's face when I told her that Stapleton was married. It removed the final barrier from her willingness to cooperate. When she confessed that it was Stapleton who had suggested she meet that night with Sir Charles, the final piece fell into place. At the last minute, it was Stapleton who gave her the money she needed and convinced her that she need not meet with Sir Charles.
So Stapleton knew exactly when Sir Charles would be at the moor gate, and thus when to bring this hound.
Precisely. Stapleton knew that Sir Charles, in his current state of mind, would have been highly agitated by just being so near the moor at that hour. The very sight of the hound was enough to send Sir Charles running in fright, and the strain killed him. No doubt the hound actually approached Sir Charles' body, but finding him dead did not attack it. Stapleton then merely recalled the animal, leaving only its tracks in the wet ground.
But why? What was the purpose of all of it?
That took a bit more research, Watson. First and most important, I detected in Stapleton certain facial features which led me to believe that he may be of the Baskerville lineage. My study led me to discover that Stapleton was, in fact, the son of Sir Charles' brother Roger, who had fled with a sinister reputation to Central America.
So Stapleton is in truth a Baskerville?
Yes. His name is the same as his father's. This Roger Baskerville grew up in Central America, where he married Beryl Garcia, and having purloined a large sum of money, escaped to England, where he set up his school under the name Vandeleur. When the school collapsed, he took what remained of his funds and moved here to Devonshire, where he found that only Sir Charles and Sir Henry stood between him and the family estate.
It was then he put his plan into motion.
Yes. No doubt he had learned of the family legend, probably from Sir Charles himself. Using that as a foundation, he devised the scheme which, after some time for suspicions to die down, would end with him somehow revealing his true identity and assuming the estate.
What a devilish plan.
And one that very nearly would have succeeded. And the thicker this fog grows, the more I fear for Sir Henry's safety. Wait, is that the door?
Yes, I believe so.
Then Sir Henry will be coming. Be ready, Watson. With this confounding fog, we may need to move quickly. Watson, look!
The hound!
Sir Henry, look out! Quickly, Watson.
My God, Holmes, look at it! I've never seen such a hound. It's huge! And that looks like fire shooting from its eyes and muzzle.
Stapleton! It is caught, Sir Henry!
Help!
Hurry!
Get off me!
Shoot it, Watson, now!
Help!
Sir Henry, are you all right?
Yes. I'll be fine.
The hound is dead, Holmes. And look, what looked like fire on its muzzle was...
Phosphorus, yes, I know. Hurry, Watson. Our target has no doubt heard your gun and will know something has gone wrong. We must catch him before he can escape. Wait! There he goes towards Grip and Mire.
Be careful, Holmes. The swampland of the mire is quite dangerous. One false step and... Wait! Look! They're ahead!
Help me, please!
Stapleton is neck-deep in the mire. In the fog, he has obviously lost his well-known path and stumbled into the bog. I'll try to get...
Watson, not alone. You're likely to get too far in the mire yourself. Hold my hand. I'll try to get out far enough to reach him.
Please, quickly! I'm barely able to keep my head out now.
Hold tight, Watson. I can nearly reach him.
Please! I'm sinking!
I can't reach him, Watson! It's too late. He's gone.
I pulled Holmes from the mire, and we lay there, exhausted from fatigue and the release of tension we both felt at the conclusion of the mystery. Stapleton, although escaped from worldly judgment, had met a fate he deserved. When we finally returned to Medipet House, we found Stapleton's wife drugged and bound in an upper room. She confessed the details of the entire episode, including the abuse she had suffered at the hands of a cold, cruel-hearted husband. Holmes had been right in every detail. Sir Henry was physically in fine condition after the ordeal, but the events had so shaken him that he felt the need to travel for some time before returning to Baskerville Hall for good. Sherlock Holmes and I returned to our familiar digs at Baker Street, and Holmes, as was his habit, immediately involved himself in another case. And thus, the Hound of the Baskervilles took its place alongside the numberless cases that comprises the remarkable exploits of Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Don't touch that dial. You have been listening to Theatre Bristol on Air. We hope you've enjoyed this presentation of the classic Sherlock Holmes mystery, The Hound of the Baskervilles, by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I'm the director and your host, Glenn Patterson. Theatre Bristol on Air features the talents of James Francis, Andrew Hunt, Brant Burgess, Joshua Green, Ben Mays, Dan Gray, Natalie Justice, Robert McCrary, Jeanette Winston, and Taylor Bowling. The stage manager is Nicole Intagliata. The soundographer is Camille Gray, and the producer is Samantha Gray. Please visit our website at theatrebristol.org to find other radio programs. On behalf of our radio ensemble, good night.
I'm Samantha Gray, and on behalf of Theatre Bristol, your community theatre, thank you for tuning in to Theatre Bristol On Air's presentation of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, The Hound of Baskervilles. Congratulations to director Glenn Patterson, sound engineer Camille Gray, stage manager Nicole Intagliata, and the entire cast for a wonderful production. We hope you are giving them a big applause and that you enjoyed this whodunit. There will be more Theatre Bristol on air, such as our May production of Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe. So stay tuned for upcoming auditions and opportunities, and subscribe to Theatre Bristol on Air through your favorite podcast service. We've taken our season to the air because we want to keep drama and comedy, science fiction and the classics, and more live performances entertaining you, as well as giving you opportunities to perform. We have been your community theater for 56 years now, and we hope you will help us continue this vital part of our community. We invite you now to give back so we can keep drama on and off stage. Your contributions help us sustain our nonprofit organization with family-friendly productions and education. Please give now, perhaps the cost of a ticket or two, at theatrebristol.org, and then share this production so others may enjoy it. Thank you.